Before the world knew his name, there was a small boy sitting quietly on a cold floor. He was not famous. He was not strong. He was not sure about his future. Doctors looked at him with serious faces. Other children grew taller and faster, but he stayed small, very small. That little boy loved football more than anything, but one question followed him every day. What if my body never lets me chase my dream? This is not a story about trophies or fame. This is a story about fear, pain, and silent tears. It is a story about a child who almost lost everything before he became everything. Welcome to English SpeakCast. Today, you will learn English through a true emotional story. This is the story of Lionel Messi's broken childhood before greatness. Lionel Andres Messi was born on a warm day in June in the city of Rosario, Argentina. Rosario was not a rich city. It was not full of bright lights or big dreams. It was a working-class city where life was simple and sometimes hard. Messi grew up in a small house with his family. His father, Jorge, worked in a steel factory. His job was difficult, and the money was not much. His mother, Celia, took care of the home and the children. She was gentle, quiet, and always worried about her family. Messi was the youngest child. He had 2 older brothers and 1 sister. In the house, life was noisy but loving. There was laughter, arguments, and shared meals. No one talked about fame or success. They talked about work, school, and tomorrow. The neighborhood was modest. Small streets, old buildings. Children played outside every day. They used anything they could find as a ball. Sometimes it was a real football, sometimes it was not. Messi's days were simple. He went to school in the morning. In the afternoon, he played outside. There were no video games, no big toys, just friends, dust, and open space. In this small world, Messi learned important things without knowing it. He learned patience. He learned humility. He learned how to share and how to wait. No one in Rosario looked at this quiet little boy and saw a future star. He was just another child in the neighborhood, small, silent, ordinary. And yet, in this simple place, a very special story was slowly beginning. From a very young age, Lionel was not like the other children. He was smaller, quieter. He spoke less and watched more. In school, he sat quietly at his desk. He listened to the teacher. He did his work. He did not try to be the center of attention. Other children ran, shouted, and laughed loudly. Lionel stayed calm and silent. On the football field, it was the same at first. He did not push others. He did not shout for the ball. He waited. Some children laughed at him. They called him too small. They said he was weak. They did not expect much from him. But when the ball touched his feet, something changed. Lionel moved in a different way. The ball stayed close to him like it was listening to him. He did not run fast, but he moved smart. He did not use strength, he used control. Coaches began to notice. They saw a small boy who never gave up the ball easily. They saw balance, focus, and calm. Even when older boys tried to stop him, he kept going. Off the field, Lionel was shy. He did not like interviews. He did not like crowds. He felt more comfortable with his family and the ball. At home, he was polite and quiet. He listened to his parents. He followed rules. He did not dream loudly. He dreamed silently. Some people saw only his size, but a few saw something deeper. They saw discipline in his eyes. They saw passion without noise. They saw a child who did not need words to speak. Lionel Messi was different. Not because he was strong, but because he was focused. because he loved football with his whole heart, and that quiet love was about to change his life forever. Football entered Lionel's life before he could fully understand the world. The ball was almost as big as his body, but to him, it felt perfect. His first memories were not of toys or cartoons. They were of footballs rolling on the ground, of feet kicking dust into the air, of laughter echoing between small houses. Lionel followed his brothers everywhere. When they played football, he was always there. At first, they did not take him seriously. He was too small, too slow, too quiet. But Lionel did not complain. He waited, he watched, he learned. Soon, the streets of Rosario became his classroom. There were no coaches, no rules written on paper, only freedom. He played on broken roads, on uneven fields, sometimes barefoot, sometimes with old shoes. The ball was never clean, but the joy was always pure. When Lionel played, the world disappeared. There were no worries, no fear, no sadness, only the ball and his feet. Football gave him something special. It gave him a voice. On the field, he did not need to speak. His movements spoke for him. He dribbled past older boys. He escaped tight spaces. He smiled when he played, a rare smile. His family noticed the change. When Lionel had a ball, he was happy. When he did not, he felt lost. Football became his escape from reality, from school pressure, from daily struggles, from a world that sometimes felt too big. His grandmother watched him closely. She believed in him deeply. She encouraged him. She clapped louder than anyone else. For Lionel, football was not just a game. It was comfort. It was safety. It was love. And this first love was only growing stronger. As Lionel grew a little older, football was no longer just a street game. People started to talk. They started to notice. When he joined his first local club, everything felt new. There were real goals, real jerseys, real coaches. Lionel was still the smallest on the team. His shirt looked too big. His socks fell down, but his feet told a different story. Coaches watched him closely. At first, they were unsure. He did not look strong. He did not look fast. But when training started, doubts slowly disappeared. Lionel played with intelligence. He passed at the right moment. He moved into space naturally. He scored goals without force. Soon his name became familiar, not famous, but known. His family supported him quietly. His father took him to training. His mother washed his clothes. His brothers protected him. They did not talk about becoming rich or famous. They talked about effort. They talked about respect. They talked about enjoying the game. Small victories came, a good match, a few goals, a smile from a coach. Each success made Lionel believe a little more. He began to dream, slowly and carefully, not loudly, not proudly. At night, he imagined football fields. He imagined crowds he had never seen, but he never spoke about it. Football was no longer just love. It was becoming a dream, a fragile dream, a dream that depended on his body, his health, and his future. And soon, that dream would face its biggest test. Around the age of 10, something began to worry Lionel's family. He was not growing like other children. His friends were getting taller, stronger, faster, but Lionel stayed the same. At first, no one panicked. Some children grow late, people said. Be patient, they said. But time passed, and nothing changed. Lionel often felt tired. He lacked energy. His body felt weak after training. Still, he never complained. His parents became concerned. They took him to doctors. Hospitals became familiar places. Cold rooms, bright lights, serious faces. After many tests, the answer finally came. Lionel had growth hormone deficiency. His body was not producing enough hormone to grow normally. The words were heavy, hard to understand, harder to accept. The doctor explained carefully. Without treatment, Lionel might never grow properly. His football future was at risk. His health was at risk. The treatment existed, but it was expensive, very expensive. Lionel sat quietly during these conversations. He listened. He looked at his parents' faces. He did not fully understand the medical words, but he understood the fear. His mother felt helpless. His father felt powerless. They wanted to protect their son, but they did not know how. For Lionel, the world suddenly felt smaller. Football was no longer just about talent or passion, it was about his body. Every injection, every doctor visit, every quiet car ride home added weight to his heart. The dream that once felt close now felt fragile, like glass. And the worst part was this: Lionel did nothing wrong. He trained hard, he loved the game, but his own body was standing in his way. This was the moment when childhood ended early. This was the moment when fear entered his life. And it was only the beginning. The treatment Lionel needed was expensive, very expensive. His family did not have enough money. Jorge, his father, worked long hours at the steel factory. Celia, his mother, did everything she could at home. Still, the bills were too high. The injections were costly. The doctor visits added up. Every month, the number seemed impossible. At night, the family sat together quietly. They whispered, not to wake Lionel. "How can we pay for this?" his mother asked softly. "What if we fail?" his father said. The fear was heavy, but they never let Lionel see it. They smiled. They encouraged him to play. They told him to dream. Sometimes Lionel felt it too. He noticed the tired faces of his parents. He noticed the long trips to the hospital. He noticed the sacrifice in every small thing. Fewer meals out, old clothes mended again, every penny spent carefully. The world felt unfair. Why did he have to fight not only on the field, but also in life? Why did his body, his dream, and his family's love all depend on money? Even in fear, the family did not stop. They borrowed from relatives. They sold small things. They worked harder. Lionel learned something important in those nights. Life was not easy. Dreams required sacrifice. Pain was sometimes necessary. He was still a child, but life forced him to grow up quickly. He trained harder, knowing that every drop of sweat counted. Every ball touched, every goal attempted mattered more than ever. Even in poverty and fear, love held them together. And in the darkest moments, Lionel's quiet determination began to shine. The struggle was far from over, but little by little, he learned to carry not only his own dreams, but also the weight of his family's hope. Despite his family's sacrifices, Lionel often felt broken inside. He looked at other children and saw how easily they grew. He saw their strength, their speed, their size. He sometimes wondered if he could ever catch up, if his dream of football was even possible. He sat quietly on the sidelines during matches. He watched older kids score goals. He watched them run faster, jump higher, laugh louder, and he felt small, not just in body, but in heart. At home, he tried not to show it. He smiled when his parents clapped. He laughed when his brothers joked. But deep inside, fear and sadness lived quietly. He feared losing football. He feared disappointing his parents. He feared that all his dreams might fade before they even began. Sometimes he asked himself quietly, "Why me? Why am I so small? Will I ever be enough?" Even in moments of play, Lionel felt the difference. The ball loved him, yes, but the world often did not. Other children ran past him. Coaches doubted him. Friends didn't always understand. Yet, even in this brokenness, something stronger was forming. A quiet fire inside, a determination to not let fear win, a promise to himself that he would try no matter what. Messi was small, fragile, and often sad, but inside, he was learning one of the most important lessons of life. Even when you feel broken, hope can survive. Even when the world seems too big, your heart can stay bigger. And this fragile child, carrying fear, sadness, and love, was about to face more tests that would decide whether his dream could live or die. As Lionel grew older, his talent became clearer, but the world was still not ready to accept him. He went to clubs, hopeful and excited, only to face rejection again and again. Some coaches said he was too small. Others said he lacked strength. Even when he scored goals, people doubted his future. Each no felt like a heavy stone on his chest. He tried to understand why. He tried to train harder. He tried to show them that he belonged, but the rejections kept coming. His family felt the weight too. They had already sacrificed so much. They had borrowed money, worked long hours, stayed up nights worrying. Every rejection felt like a reminder of all that effort. At home, Lionel's mother sometimes cried quietly. His father tried to hide his disappointment, but it was there. Even his brothers, who loved him deeply, could not erase the sting of repeated failure. For Lionel, the pain was not just physical, it was emotional. The world seemed unfair. He worked, he tried, he gave everything, and yet doors stayed closed. But something inside him refused to break. Every no became a lesson. Every disappointment taught patience. Every closed door made him focus harder on the one door that might finally open. He learned to play quietly, confidently, without needing approval. He learned to trust his own heart. He learned that talent alone was not enough. Strength of will mattered more. And though the world kept saying not yet, Lionel carried on, because even a small boy with a fragile body could dream bigger than anyone expected. The journey of rejection was painful, but it was shaping him. It was teaching him to endure, to believe, and to fight silently for a future that only he could see. And soon, a journey into the unknown would demand everything he had learned, and more. When Lionel was just 13, an opportunity appeared that could change his life forever. A football club in Spain, Barcelona, was willing to take a chance on him. The offer sounded like a dream, but it came with a heavy cost. He would have to leave everything he knew: his home, his friends, his family. The thought was terrifying. A small boy, just 13, traveling across the world. New language, new country, new life. His parents tried to comfort him. "This is your chance," they said. "This is the path you have been dreaming of." But comfort was little against the fear in his heart. The day of departure arrived. The family gathered at the airport. Silent hugs, tears hidden behind brave faces, words left unspoken. Lionel held his mother's hand. He hugged his father tightly. He looked at his brothers. Everything he loved was behind him. The flight was long. The world outside the window was foreign and strange. He wondered, will I be able to do this? Will I belong? Arriving in Spain, the city of Barcelona seemed huge. The streets were different. The language was different. Even the food was different. Loneliness arrived like a shadow. He missed home immediately. He missed the streets of Rosario, the familiar sounds, the smells, the faces of people he had grown up with. And yet, despite fear, uncertainty, and homesickness, Lionel stepped forward. He knew that dreams sometimes demanded sacrifice. He knew that comfort had to be left behind to find greatness. This journey into the unknown would test him in ways he had never imagined, but it would also give him the chance to become more than anyone had ever expected. Barcelona was nothing like Rosario. The city was big, busy, and loud. The streets smelled different, the voices sounded strange, and the people, they did not know him. At first, Lionel felt completely alone. He struggled with the language. Even simple words were hard to understand. He missed the comfort of his family's voice. He missed the laughter of his neighborhood. He missed home. The football academy was intense. Boys from all over the world trained there. Many were older, stronger, taller. Some were rude. Some ignored him. Some teased him for being small, quiet, and foreign. Messi had never felt so fragile. But he remembered his dream. He remembered the sacrifices of his parents. He remembered the injections, the fear, the nights of doubt. Each day he pushed himself harder. He arrived early. He stayed late. He practiced again and again. Even when his body ached, he did not complain. Sometimes he cried alone in his room. Sometimes he wanted to give up, but he never let anyone see. He never let anyone know how much it hurt. Slowly, he began to adapt. He learned a few words in Spanish. He understood the routines. He made 1 or 2 friends. It was small progress, but progress nonetheless. The fragile boy from Rosario was learning to survive in a world much bigger than him. He was learning to grow, not just in height, but in courage, patience, and resilience. Every day was a test. Every day demanded more than just talent. It demanded heart, and Lionel had plenty of it. The streets of Barcelona were large and intimidating, but within him a quiet strength was taking root. The boy who felt small and broken was slowly becoming a young man who might just stand tall enough to change the world. At the academy, Lionel's talent could no longer stay hidden. Coaches watched him closely. They saw a boy, smaller than most, yet faster with his mind than anyone else. He controlled the ball like it was part of him. He dribbled, passed, and scored in ways that left even older players amazed. But talent alone was not enough. Barcelona's management had a decision to make. They could offer him a contract and full treatment, or they could walk away. Lionel waited nervously. Every small movement, every training session felt like a test. Every smile from a coach carried weight. Every criticism cut deeply. The famous meeting came. The club officials sat around a table. They looked at papers, numbers, and predictions. Could this fragile boy survive the pressure? Could he become a professional footballer? For Lionel, it was more than a contract. It was the difference between hope and despair. If they said yes, his dream could begin to take shape. If they said no, he might have to return home, leave football behind, and wonder if it was ever meant to be. His parents were beside him, silent but tense. They had already sacrificed everything. They had borrowed money, traveled across countries, and prayed every day. Now it was a matter of faith. Finally, the words came. Barcelona would take him. They would pay for his treatment. They would invest in the boy who many had already doubted. It was a small victory, but it carried enormous weight. It was the chance to turn the fragile boy into something extraordinary. But it was also a risk. A single mistake, injury, or moment of doubt could ruin everything. Lionel's heart raced. He felt relief, fear, excitement, and pressure all at once. He knew this was only the beginning. The real work, the real challenges, and the real sacrifices had just begun. This moment marked the turning point. The boy from Rosario, once small and uncertain, was now standing on the edge of destiny. The ball was in his feet, and the world was waiting. With Barcelona's decision, a new chapter began, but it was far from easy. Lionel now had to receive growth hormone treatment, sometimes painful injections, every day. His small body had to endure medicine that was meant to make him stronger, taller, and ready for football. The treatments were not comfortable. Some nights his legs hurt. Some mornings he felt weak and tired. Yet he never complained. He quietly accepted what needed to be done. Training at Barcelona was also intense. Every day, coaches pushed him harder than ever. The drills were long. The expectations were high. He had to perform perfectly to keep his place. Messi faced a new kind of struggle. Not just the fear of rejection, not just the longing for home, but the pain of his own body testing his limits. Even small setbacks could be devastating. A missed goal, a rough tackle, a slow recovery from an injection. But he learned something crucial. Strength was not only physical, it was mental, it was discipline, it was the ability to endure silently, to keep trying even when no one was watching. Every day he woke up and faced the same routine: school, training, injections, rest, repeat. There were no shortcuts, no easy victories. Yet through this quiet struggle, Lionel grew, not just in height, but in character. Every challenge, every painful moment added a layer of resilience. He learned patience, he learned humility. He learned that greatness often comes quietly, far from applause and attention. The fragile boy from Rosario was slowly transforming. The tears, the fear, and the quiet nights of struggle were shaping him into someone extraordinary. And soon, the world would begin to see this quiet strength, a strength that many would come to admire long before he ever became a global superstar. For years, Lionel's progress was quiet. No headlines, no cheering crowds, just a small boy, a ball, and endless hours of practice. Every day, he trained with the same dedication, even when he was tired or in pain. Every dribble, every pass, every shot was repeated again and again. Sometimes, no one noticed. Sometimes he felt invisible. But coaches began to take note. They saw how naturally he moved with the ball, how he could read the game before anyone else, how he could escape impossible situations. Even though he was small, he played with intelligence and courage. They were matches where he shined quietly. A goal here, a clever pass there, a moment of brilliance that went unnoticed by the larger world. And with each small success, his confidence grew. He began to trust himself more. He realized that talent alone was not enough. It was discipline, patience, and quiet determination that made the difference. Off the field, Lionel also improved. He learned Spanish slowly. He adapted to life in a new country. He found friends who supported him. He discovered small joys in Barcelona, away from home. This period of unseen effort was crucial. The world would later celebrate his genius, but these were the moments that truly defined him. The silent mornings of pain, the evenings of practice, the nights missing home, they shaped his mind, his spirit, and his heart.
Lionel Messi was no longer just the fragile boy from Rosario. He was becoming a player capable of extraordinary feats. But the world had yet to witness it. These were the hidden steps, the secret moments of growth that only he, his family, and a few coaches knew about. The boy who once sat quietly on the streets of Rosario was ready to begin a journey that would take him from unseen struggles to the greatest stages of football. And in just a few years, his quiet brilliance would start to make the world take notice.
Years of struggle had changed Lionel Messi. The boy who once felt broken, small, and alone was no longer fragile. He had grown, not just in height, but in spirit, courage, and determination. Every injection, every training session, every lonely night in a foreign country had shaped him. The pain he endured, the fears he faced, the rejections he survived, they became part of his strength. He learned patience. He learned humility. He learned to value effort over applause. At home, he never forgot his family's sacrifices. Every goal, every dribble, every victory was for them as much as it was for himself. He carried their hopes silently, without boasting or pride. On the field, Lionel played with freedom and joy, but he also played with respect and discipline. He understood the value of hard work and the cost of dreams. People began to notice not just his talent, but his character. A quiet boy had become a strong soul, someone who could endure hardship without complaint, someone who could shine brightly yet remain humble. Lionel Messi's journey was not just about football, it was about courage, resilience, and the quiet strength of a child who refused to be defeated. He had been broken, overlooked, and underestimated, but he turned every challenge into a stepping stone. From the streets of Rosario to the fields of Barcelona, the broken child had become a young man ready to inspire the world. And this was only the beginning of a story that would one day reach millions, not because of fame, but because of heart. Lionel Messi's story reminds us that greatness does not come from comfort. It comes from struggle, patience, and silent determination. The small boy from Rosario faced obstacles that could have ended his dream. He battled fear, pain, rejection, and uncertainty. Yet he never gave up. He kept moving forward, step by step, day by day. His journey shows that even when life feels unfair, even when the world seems too big, hope can survive. Even when we feel weak, even when we feel broken, strength can grow quietly inside us. Messi's story is not just about football. It is about courage. It is about resilience. It is about believing in yourself, even when others do not. So, wherever you are, whatever challenges you face, remember the small boy who dreamed quietly and worked silently. Your struggles do not define you. They shape you. Your fears do not stop you. They prepare you. Thank you for listening to this story on English SpeakCast. Remember, every great journey begins with a single step, and sometimes the most powerful strength comes from a heart that refuses to give up. The boy who was once broken became a legend, and so can you.